Again, another commonly asked question, probably asked more often within the primary care setting. I think there are some things that can be done, and I think that a lot of those relate to, lifestyle factors. Unfortunately, there is an epidemic of obesity in the Western world, and I think that is an independent factor which is very often not helpful for getting pregnant. Now, it may well be that is something that some ladies find much more difficult to lose weight than others in the context of underlying, hormonal issues. But I think regardless of that, it's always helpful to try and improve your general health. And as part of that, to try and either modify your diet and or increase your exercise. And in terms of dietary modification, these days, I think most clinicians would be very much more for the kind of diet that is on the low carbohydrate side and higher protein. That's helpful for ladies who have a degree of insulin resistance, which is part of the spectrum of problems that occur within polycystic ovarian syndrome. So I think that's very useful advice to be having. I think weight loss often by itself can reverse ladies who have problems with oligomenorrhea. So I've seen many ladies over the years who have erratic cycles, who perhaps have a starting BMI of 32 or 33 over a period of maybe 6 months. If they lose a significant amount of weight and their BMI comes into the normal range under 30, that will often see the return of regular cycles, and with that the return of spontaneous regular ovulation, in which case if the only issue was ovulation, they will often very quickly get pregnant. And I think, again, rather than rushing forward into over investigating and over analyzing things, particularly in a younger lady, make that the focus, of lifestyle. And I think, again, if you look at the demographics of ladies who are pregnant now versus 20 or 30 years ago, the mean BMI now is hugely increased throughout the whole of Western Europe and the States and Canada, and that's not a helpful thing, not only during pregnancy, but if you look at risks during labour and childbirth, the risks are directly associated with increased BMI. So I think, above and beyond the fertility area, is a big thing that I've made an issue out of in terms of trying to persuade ladies that it's a really good time to focus on weight loss for general health, but also alongside that, increasing their chance of spontaneous fertility. So alongside that, advice on diet, and again, it's not rocket science. Healthy diet involves fresh produce, fresh vegetables, fruit, meat and fish. Try and limit the processed foods that are quick and convenient, but generally not particularly good for you. Have all kinds of additives and preservatives and things. Try and steer back towards that sort of diet where you're using fresh produce and thinking about what you're eating. If you do that, it's rare that you're actually deficient in important vitamins and minerals, with the possible exception of vitamin D, which certainly in the northern part of Europe, it's difficult to get enough vitamin D in your diet, and there's rarely enough sunshine to actually generate vitamin D in the skin. So I think, as we've understood and started measuring vitamin D in the general population in Northern Europe anyway, I would advise all ladies of reproductive age, alongside taking their preconception folic acid, to take low-dose vitamin D, approximately 1,000 units per day, which you can buy over the counter in the whole of Europe. And that might be in the context of a broader nutritional supplement. But as long as those two key features are within it, the folic acid and vitamin D, they are, I think, just they're standard recommendations that all ladies should be thinking about. There may be more specific advice that might be relevant in people who are perhaps vegans or whatever, but that's something they perhaps should talk to their clinician about, just to make sure there might not be other elements that might need to be supplemented. Or, for example, ladies who've had obesity-related surgery, but they also should be aware of the kind of supplementation they need to take. I think one of the other issues that people should try and address is trying to make sure that just their general lifestyle is good, and that they do things to help alleviate stress, which is part of everyday life these days. But I certainly encourage people to, it doesn't matter whether it's yoga or dancing or swimming or horse riding or whatever, but do things that do think might be cooking, it might be painting. I think things that allow people to escape from the stress of day-to-day life. We know stress by itself can switch off the menstrual cycle, and if you switch off the menstrual cycle, you won't ovulate, you will not get pregnant. Excessive weight loss, ladies with eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, etc., that will switch off the hypothalamic pituitary axis. You will stop ovulating. So not just being overweight, being underweight can be a significant thing. And some of those things might also point to underlying other issues, for example, thyroid disease or whatever, diabetes perhaps. So opportunities to get those things checked and make sure that it isn't just a case of infertility per se, but there are other underlying medical issues that absolutely need addressing and correcting and optimizing prior to perhaps getting pregnant in that context.